Hello everybody, it is me, Pacific, and another out-of-the-box video just for your viewing pleasure. You know, reading the comments this morning on the video I did last night, the Pacific Limited. One thing that I like about my channel here is that it encourages and promotes an atmosphere of people being real. And we have our bouts with trolls, but most of the comments I read are thoughtful, intelligent, and real. People just saying, you know, I struggle with submitting to God too. And there's a few things I want to talk about, but I want to talk about a real scenario. And I'm going to warn my viewers right now, if you're under 18, you need to get off my channel, or at least get your parents' permission to watch it, because the things I'm going to talk about are not appropriate for children. You know, one of the things that I've heard loud and clear from my viewers, and that I've personally witnessed, is how our culture tends to lend itself to pretentiousness. You know, our media advertising, our consumeristic culture is, you got to make everything on the outside look good. That message has been caught, bought, and put its chains around us Americans. So much so that on Sunday morning we go to church and play the game well. Playing games is for corporate people. Playing games is not for the people of God. And it's not for the people who are not people of God, who decide that, you know what, I'm going to be real. You know, something to think about. What would you do if you walked in church on Sunday morning, or for those of you that don't go to church, and you go up to somebody you know and you slap them on the back and you say, "Hi, Bob, how you doing?" And they turn around and say, "Well, I'm not doing so good. I felt so lonely this week. I had time off, and well, I looked at lesbian porn and I was really titillated by it." What? Go drop that piece of truth in a church and watch the Red Sea part. Why is it that when we go to church we can't be that real? Now hold on. I know many people are going, "Oh my gosh, Pacific, are you serious?" Yeah. Do you know who has the hardest time with such an admission like that? A lot of American women. Oh, did you hear what he just said? TMI. Why is it a lot of American church women just aren't real? Ask American church women how much time they spend in the bathroom mirror and how many arguments are caused with their husbands and others because nobody else can get in the bathroom. Well, I'm dating myself, going back to one-bedroom homes, and I remember those days, or one-bathroom homes. How come we're not allowed to be honest? Why is it the minute you be honest with a preacher, with a group of Christians, that puts a target on your back and you have just successfully alienated yourself from everybody? Now, we have to be careful. There are some people that just want to live in that, and whine and whine and whine. And I've been around people like that. Every time you see them, "How you doing?" "Oh, I'm not doing good." And it's every single week. And even then, even I'm guilty of going, you don't know what they've been through. And there is a tendency in all of us humans that, this guy's a drain, I'm out of here. It's not easy dealing with each other. Women really condemn men for their struggle with lust and porn, and the same women don't bother to have any conviction about the way they dress, their attitudes, and the way they act. Don't write me, Gypsy, about your inappropriate dressing. Don't try to defend it. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. Why do I say that? Because this is the Christianity we're living in this country. I'm okay, you're not okay, you're a pig, you got problems. I don't. We all have problems. I've been honest enough to admit some things that have just shocked some people, and some Christians would stumble onto this channel, especially the Beth Moore, the Women of Faith conference people. They're going to come in and hear the things I have to say, and they are going to mad dash out of here so fast and go, whoa, no way. That's okay. I'm not interested in attracting flakes. Excuse me. I'm interested in finding out how we can get to a point without religiousizing ourselves. Religiousizing, oh, I can't do this, I can't stop, I gotta stop, I gotta be pure, I'm crucified with Christ, I gotta say no to the lust of the flesh, I gotta do all this stuff, and I gotta drive myself nuts. How many of us men are honest enough to look at another woman and look at another man and say, I gotta admit, I like my sin? We don't need to get specific here. But we do what we do. Orgasm feels good. One of the viewers this morning admitted that if he saw a drop-dead gorgeous woman who wanted to do it with him now, he'd be like a lion on a zebra. I totally can relate to that. A lot of American church women immediately condemn a man for such a statement. Oh, you're a pig. You have no self-control. Neither do you, honey. The way you're shooting off your mouth right now and your self-righteousness, you've got a lot of growing to do yourself. I've taken the time to look in on a lot of Christian marriages, and I've noticed something. Yesterday when the missionary spoke, I heard the preacher who interviewed them say that they have struggled with intimacy in their marriage. Now, can I be honest? She was quite large, very heavy, and I'm going to be honest, not attractive. He wasn't a bill of goods himself either. He was heavy. And I thought within myself, I could not get intimate in that marriage either. If she was my wife, there's no way that intimacy and her would go together in the same sentence. We in the church need to start analyzing some things and saying, if we're real up here, why aren't we real out here? Now, no, you don't go up to somebody and say, well, I couldn't be intimate with you either, tuts. That'll get you in trouble. But I wonder, as that woman said, I need to make myself more appealing, and I'm not doing a good job in the bod squad department. You got to stop eating so many ho-hos and doing bad habits. But you know what? Have you noticed something, men? Have you noticed that men are always told they need to change, but women, don't you dare tell them to change. Everybody's different. Some people don't mind love handles, and some people don't mind butts the size of Volkswagens. I remember my cousin said to me that years ago. I laughed my head off. Pacific, I like women with butts the size of Volkswagen Beetles. I said, cousin, only you would come up with that. He lives with a woman who's pretty dang near close, and guess what? He admitted to me, I'm struggling with lust. His wife is not easy to live with. She's cantankerous, feisty, combative, loud, obnoxious, and she's this big. Can I be honest? I'd have a real hard showing agape love for that. Coming home from work to that every day would be like, which is worse, dealing with the crap at work or dealing with the crap the minute I walk in the door and see this? It's easy for me to love Indokita, and by the way, I'm going to introduce to my viewers, I have changed her name and christened her something else. I didn't like the name Indokita. It fit because Kita was part of Mahal Kita, which is a Philippine culture for I love you, and Indo was Indonesian. But the more I listened to the name, I thought this is cheesy. So I looked up in the Indonesian names for girls, and I found one that caught my eye after looking through them, and I call her Maharani. Maharani is a girl name, and it means empress. Many of my viewers are going, huh? You think she's an empress? I'm not ashamed to admit that when you find a woman that's exemplar and exceptional I have no problem saying, yeah, she's my empress or my queen bee or whatever. I have no problem with that. She wrote me this morning, said, I love the name. I always like names that start with M, and I really like that name. Very classy. I accept it. So she is now Maharani. She gave me the name Maikaru-san. Maikaru is the Japanese for Michael. I've signed most of my emails and correspondence with her Maikaru-san Pacific, and I like it. I like it when we can give names for each other out of our heart that aren't cutesy, stupid names, but names that have meaning and substance. If I was married to Maharani, I know that there'd be things to work through and out. Let me say something that shocks most men. Bananas are good for you. Really good for you. No, that's not what I want to say. I don't care if you marry the most beautiful dame on 2 legs, you're still going to struggle with lust. There's been a myth put out there by certain Christians over the years. It's if you don't have sex before marriage and you never look at porn and you always do the right thing, that when you find your wife, it'll mean so much more and be so much more special. Poppycock. As soon as you do it with her, you'll see another scantily clad woman go by and your head will giraffe right around, or should I say owl. We are always going to struggle. And women will say, but Job says, I made a covenant with my eyes that I might not sin by lusting after a woman. But how many men can do that? What does the Bible say about covenants? The Bible says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Promises are made to be broken, and we need to be very careful about making promises, especially when we're human. We need to say, God, help me get to a point where I don't desire those things. Here's something that a lot of people don't want to deal with in the evangelical church. It says in the Bible, change my heart, O God, make it ever new. Actually, that's the song. I think that was Maranatha Singers, but I'm not correct. That or Hosanna Integrity Music, one of those. But the Bible says the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? The implication is we can't even know our own hearts. Analyze yourself, men, how fickle you are in a day. That woman comes by, ooh, she's cute, she's cute, she's cute, ooh, nice. We're not faithful in our minds. And there's growing numbers of women that also have the same dynamic. Maharani struggles with things. But Pacific, you said she's a virgin. She can have dark thoughts too. Very much so. I don't care who it is. I don't care how loud they yell and scream and how righteous and how much better they are than other people. That's a lie. That is from the devil. Anybody selling themselves out there as better than, more superior than, has missed it. Oh God, I thank thee that I'm not like that sinner over there. And the sinner over there doesn't even look up and says, God, be merciful to me. We got a lot of Christians that are acting like the religious Pharisee. I've personally experienced it with emails from a certain other. You can't talk to her. You can't tell her the truth. There's a lot of women I know that you cannot look them in the eye and say, did you know that you have got a problem with pride? Did you know that you are being very rude and that is not the spirit of Christianity? You can't. When you run up against people that all they do is put you down, put you down, put you down, you need to walk away from them and don't say a word. Arguing with them is like grabbing a dog by the ears and expecting not to get bitten. I don't know why some people are like that. I don't know why so many women will sit there and crucify us males for our struggles in life, but never look at themselves. I'm not going to rehash this over and over, but when you see glaring inconsistencies, biblical inconsistencies in their life, and they won't even admit it, you need to just leave their presence and say, you know what, I'm done talking to you. When you want to get real, let me know. Let me take it a step further. We are responsible for our own sins, but women like that, just give me a reason to stay in my sin and say, who wants to even start, initiate, or have a relationship with that? No thanks. God has been good to me, that even though it appears I can't have Maharani, I know one thing. She has shown me relationally, finally, after 48 years, what I do want in a woman. If you asked me to write that out in a post on a dating site, I couldn't do it. She's honest, she's sensual, she's erotic, she's intellectual, she's spiritual, she's very accepting and very kind to me. She is not stick your head in the sand ostrich. She's not rose-colored glasses. She is very realistic, very honest and transparent about her faults, even to the point of telling me, I can't believe you're so taken by me. Because you're everything I wanted but didn't know it. So I can look at women here and go, if I did find somebody to date and go out with, they're never going to be Maharani. They can't. It's impossible in our culture to find a woman like that. I'm going to be so bold. When I look at stuck-up, hot-looking women here, I just shake my head and go, I'm guilty, viewers, of what I'm about to say is going to be crude and crass. Those women would only be good for an easy lay and nothing more. But I'm going to go even deeper. For me, that wouldn't even be what I want. Because a woman with that kind of an attitude, I am not erotically turned on, even by her looks. Why would I want to get intimate with that? Saying the kind of things I do is not going to make them happy. I don't care. Barbies need to be knocked off their throne every day. Our media culture, our church culture, our everything U.S. culture coddles, pedestalizes, and gives these women every reason to continue to be rude and princess syndrome and everything else. That's why I can call Maharani an empress. I would never call her princess. I hate the word princess because American culture has made me sick of it. An empress is a step way above that. I don't like the term queen because when you read in the Bible it says, I sit as queen. It's talking about Babylon. Why do I mention Maharani? Because there are things I'm learning in her. She's as utterly sinful as I am, and yet utterly consumed with God as I am, and in some ways more intellectual than I am. And I wrote her last night several times, why would you be taken? If you, like other women, had all these choices before you, you wouldn't choose me. And she wrote back, and I told you this already, that's not true. I was drawn to you watching your videos. I've seen a lot of men, Michael, a lot of good-looking men, handsome men, men that are smarter, intellectual, blah, blah, blah. But I've been drawn to you ever since, and you don't get it, that I would do anything I could within the power I have to be with you, even if I was filthy rich, had a degree, and had every opportunity I want you. Do you know that deep down inside I go, come on. No woman wants me to that degree, except maybe the kind of women I don't want to attract. You see, deep down inside, even I have a problem believing that somebody would love me that way. Why? Because I've been beaten all my life that you're a piece of junk, dude. Gosh, I get it on my channel. You're a loser. You're a burnout. You're a whack job. I mean, sheesh, do we need to rehash that dead horse again? Here's the thing. Sounds like a Hollywood movie. doing everything I can to be with one that actually... It'd be fun to do a movie. Me going over all these dating sites, me going to Hong Kong, all the screw-ups, and then me meeting somebody on my channel, and then the odds are against us, and then it becomes a high drama adventure of us trying to finally be together, with immigration officials standing saying, "You are not allowed to be here," and I'm standing there saying, "And what are you going to do about it? I found love, and nothing's going to stand in the way of that." Wouldn't it be a cool drama? It'd be a fun movie anyway. Imagine this scene. "Mr. President, you want to make an example out of me, and yet you let 72,000 illegals come in every day. For crying out loud, let me have a woman after 48 years that I love. If you want to make a public example, go ahead. You make yourself look like a bloody fool. But if you're going to kick her out, you kick me out with her and give me papers." You know, I struggle. The freeing thing for me has been able to tell Maharani, my struggles. I'm not going to get into that because it's too personal. But she's never been turned off by that and said, "Oh, you know what, I want nothing to do with you." My detractors would say, "Well, she's ignorant, she's stupid, she's desperate." No. She's had suitors. Her parents have even kept pushing her to date some Chinese guy at the church, and she said, "I was starting to consider maybe talking to him until I saw your channel." And I said, "Nope, that did it for me." So how come a girl across the ocean who's attending a university to become a school teacher is drawn to me? She watched Wine, Women, and Song and had the opposite effect on her that it did Gypsy. Why is that? Because people in America don't want truth and don't want honesty and don't want reality. They want a pipe dream, they want an image, and they want to believe and think so highly of themselves that they'll never be real. I know that I'm not for everybody. I was thinking about a bus company I worked for in Spokane. Perfect attendance, no accidents, cleaned my bus, better than most of the other drivers. And I did my job well. The boss was a jerk to me, rude to me. He was overweight, balding, walked in with his sunglasses propped up like this. The guy was an idiot. A gorgeous white woman started with very long hair, perfect body. Her name was Tanya, and she was a hottie. And I'm going to share a dynamic with that because this is interesting. She hung out with me. She is actually a Christian woman. She grew up in a family of preachers and truck drivers. I said, "Wow." I said, "You're so nice, down to earth." One day we had an in-service with the company and we had a lunch break. She goes, "You want to go with me?" We took off in her Tahoe. We sat and ate lunch in the front seat of her vehicle and talked. And inside I'm going, "Gosh, this woman's stunning. Women like this don't hang out with me." I said, "How come you're not stuck up and uppity?" She said, "Pacific, I've grown up in a family of preachers and truckers, and I don't think I'm better than anybody else." I said, "You're absolutely stunning." She goes, "Yeah. God has blessed me with good looks, but I've had a lot of men hurt me because they never got to know my heart. They just liked my body." She was a very nice woman. She was model material, tall, broad shoulders, perfect, yeah. But we were standing in service one day, and she just looked at me and she goes, "Boy, that guy's really full of himself." I said, "He's an idiot." I went up to the boss one day because I was getting in buses. They used different buses for field trips versus routes. And I got sick and tired of going out to a bus that was utterly filthy inside. And I politely went up, and he had always encouraged us in the safety meetings, "If you ever have a suggestion that can make things better, let me know. I'm open to it." Still had a couple days growth of stubble on my face. There was no company prohibition against that. I went up and I said, "Hey, boss," I said, "I was wondering if maybe we could have some sort of a thing where we do like a monthly cleanest bus award." I said, "Then it would inspire people to clean their buses and show some company pride." He turned around and very rudely and arrogantly says, "Yeah," he says, "maybe you could go for the cleanest face award and use a razor." This is a man who called me into his office because a conversation I had with another employee that had nothing to do with any of them was overheard by a girl who was offended. I used the word butt pirate. The guys were commenting on the break in the break room about somebody who was of a certain persuasion and mentioned somebody else. And without even thinking, I said, man, I didn't know he was a butt pirate. Some girl heard that and said, that wasn't very nice. I said, I'm sorry, but it's true. I did go up and I said, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to offend you, but I was having a private conversation. I'm sorry you overheard it. She dropped the matter. Another one of her friends was standing there. A month later, she went into the office and told the boss that I was making anti-gay statements and mentioned that. And I said, boss, I actually said that a month ago, and the girl that was offended, I apologized, and she dropped the issue. And do you know what she went to the office to complain about? One of the guys jokingly called me one of the dispatcher's names, and I said, please don't ever call me. And I said his name. I said, my name is Michael. The other girl that was there when I said the butt pirate thing turned around. She goes, what do you got against him? I said, I don't want to be called somebody else's name. I want to be called Michael. I didn't say one thing about the gay issue. She went and filed a report about me. I was called in the office. The boss was very rude to me. What do you got against him? I said, boss, I don't like being called somebody else. And I simply said that. Well, I understand you said butt pirate. I said, that was a month ago. The guy threatened to put that in my file, and he wanted to meet with me the next day, and I happened to be working on the immigration thing with Beth. I went back to work the next day, and I looked at him. I said, I talked to my attorney, and she told me that because this happened a month ago and it was not reported, and that I apologized to the girl and the issue was dropped, you cannot put that in my file. Ooh, the boss changed his tune real quick and looked at the other girl. He says, he's right. I can't do anything about that. And he has a right to say he doesn't want to be called somebody else's name. Then he says to me, what do you got against him anyway? I saw that booby trap and I said, I don't want to be called that guy's name. I don't get called in these situations at work, and I clearly saw. So gays have more rights. If they get butthurt over something, we're called in immediately. There were a whole bunch of people in on that conversation, by the way. And many people do not feel comfortable with the gay dynamic. But I learned something. Gays are being favored in the American workplace. Watch yourself. He said to me, this won't go in your file because you're right. But I will tell you, if I ever have one more of these complaints about you, not only will this go in your file, the next incident, but this will go in it as well, and I will fire you. And I said, you can't fire me for something that wasn't an issue. The guy was a jerk. So much for my rights. He was rude to me, he was uncouth, and he favored all the heavy, fat people. We had several fat women working there that had atrocious, nasty attitudes. And I thought, birds of a feather. When the school year ended, safety supervisor came out to me and said, I hope to see you next year. I said, you're not going to see me again, Chief. I'm done. I said, I've worked for school districts and people that treated me way better than this. That company was so bad that I like where I work. Oh, there's problems, but I am not against the employer that I work for. Because you know what? I don't have those issues. I do my job, they leave me alone. We could use a little more praise. You know, men are not treated fairly by American females as a rule. We're lambasted, put down, and the anti-male sentiment goes on and on and on, and it goes on in Christian homes, and it goes on in Christian circles. I watched a video the other day where a guy said that, you know, basically he would tear somebody apart if somebody talked to his daughter in a sexual way. I wonder if these guys know how many girls are talking to guys in a sexual way, but that's largely ignored. I want to know why so many fathers treat their daughters like princesses, and I'm going to say something that is unbiblical. Your daughter may be the apple of your eye, but you need to stop putting her on a dang pedestal, because you're doing something that is going to have far-reaching effects against the rest of us. I'm tired of Christian fathers making their daughters a little shrine and treating them like a little goddess, and you must always be a virgin. Don't give yourself. Don't. Yes, that's a nice pipe dream, and we do the things to help her, but blasting other men, treating her like a princess, spoiling her, and making her, you're creating a woman who's going to be a liability to any man that marries her. Stuck up, selfish, narcissistic, materialistically demanding, and you're going to ever wonder if that girl has something called this. Am I speaking truth, church? I think so. Why do men look at porn? Why do men struggle with lust? I'll tell you why it is for me. Loneliness, isolation. Our American society is not being compatible to us having fulfilling, lasting relationships anymore. American women would rather get on Facebook and text message and write endless emails and play silly little condemning games with men than sit down and eat a meal together, invest in somebody, and be honest enough about their own faults and be transparent and stop being so hard on us men and actually love somebody and see what the power of love can do. Too many women are boo-hooing about past boo-boos instead of moving forward and saying, I need to stop viewing all men through the lens of my bad experiences. Ironically, men can do that. Men have been burned by women, and yet they can always keep hoping that this other woman is not her. Do you know why a lot of men look at porn? Because a lot of us know we're not going to get those hot-looking women, so seeing them disrobe is hot. Can't have it, so might as well live vicariously. Women don't want to hear that one. Women tease men, taunt men, dress provocatively, and then excuse, justify, and rationalize it. And men, it says in the Bible, it is not good for man to be alone. But I also want to add to that men don't think if you find the Kahuna Taj Mahal of woman, that's going to solve your lust problem. It won't. Because there will be a different looking, interesting, good looking woman that will come along too. What has happened to me, excuse me, is that people are tough to deal with in our culture. And when I see the relational dynamic I have with Maharani, I like it. I want that. To be able to be transparent and real before and not have to hide something in the shadows. Do you know how many men struggle with lust? They cannot and will not tell their wives. If they went down on the computer and looked at porn, they're not going to tell her because they know what they'd get. It would be ugly. Oh my gosh, he looked at porn, I'm ready to divorce. Get over yourself, lady. You're not the only pretty thing out there. In fact, based on what I'm seeing, some of the women in the porn videos look better than you. Sorry to be so uncouth. No one's ever going to solve their sinful struggles and problems until we all learn to be real. How come men are not allowed to feel some anger for what they've been through by women? How come that's not allowed us? Why do women afford themselves all the grace? I've been hurt. I've been deeply hurt by men. But a man's hurt by a woman and they just go, la 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 la, na na la 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 la. Why do they do that? It's the same thing as the Democrats when a conservative says something. La 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 la, la 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 la. Because a lot of American women are immature, unrealistic, plastic, artificial, and fake. They've watched too much television, they've looked at too many stupid women's magazines, and they've been taught that everything's high gloss and looks good on the outside, and that's what it's all about. And American culture is totally about the outside. Look at me and my SUV. Look at me and my lifestyle. But don't look deep in your heart, because you'll see rottenness through and through. I've said it. I've been bold enough to say, I can point to the good-looking women at work, and I can tell you, relationally, you have nothing there. Women that are good looking know they're good looking, and they live off the fumes of that for as long as their looks hold together. No substance, no depth, a relational liability. Men will have to jump through hoop after hoop to get a date with her and to keep a date with her because she is high maintenance. I find that women that are average looking and not so good looking oftentimes are better relationally than the hot looking divas out there, hands down. Maharani is not a 10, and she'll admit it herself. To me, she's very attractive. She's good looking and she's slender. And she's sexy to me in her own way. That's all that matters. Is she sexy enough to keep me from ever noticing other beautiful women? No. And when women got to get that in their head, that you are not the cure-all for a man's lust. That is not what the Bible teaches. The Bible tells us we all need to abstain from immorality. Women may or may not have a problem with lust, and ones that don't, there's a very deep problem in evangelical Christianity that's largely ignored. I don't do these sins, so I'm going to rail against those who do those sins. But when you start talking about the sins I'm guilty of, I am going to shut you out. I'm going to label you, I'm going to call you names, and discredit everything you say. That is how most American women deal with somebody who has the fortitude, the balls, to come in and say, woman, you're hypocritical here. Oh, there's something wrong with you. You're a whack job. Yep. That's the American female way. Label us, put us in a box on a shelf. That means I don't have to listen to you because you're bipolar. I'm not bipolar. I'm getting closer to understanding why people do what they do, and it's very enlightening. I'm not saying men are perfect. We've already admitted that. But too many American evangelical females are very hard on us men. And they're loaded with sins. Bad attitudes, arrogance, self-righteousness, self-importance, legends in their own mind. My gosh. When you get letter after letter after letter from a girl who's saying how much better she is, better communicator, better teacher, more smarter, more intelligent, more godly, more like the Apostle Paul. When you get stuff like that, you got to ask yourself, is this chick for real? Yeah. Deluded, but yeah, she thinks that she's all that in a bag of chips. And then I contrast that to Maharani, who is not arrogant. And I said, why would you love a man like me who does struggle with these things, who's been through all this? Why wouldn't you find a guy who's a virgin, never been married, and especially with your parents' prohibition? She said, I find other guys boring, passionless, stupid. She said, I find that the guys are rough, and I don't like that. She says, you're tender and sweet to me, and you're taken by me, and I like the way you think. Your videos are funny. I laugh at the things you say, and I enjoy you, and I'm drawn to you. Even when you talked about Edith, before you ever met me, I said, oh, I wish I had a man who loved on me the way he loved on her. And the way he was so sensitive to her being put down and rejected, and she landed running away from a rapist, and 2 pipes went up her calves and left nasty scars, and that's why she wore boots. She said she was drawn to me for my sensitivity towards the domestic helper, drawn to me because I was for the underdog, and that I dated a woman who to me was stunning. Edith was very good looking to me. And you know, I was in a chat room, and a woman that was in that chat room who lives in Florida, who continually complains about her husband. She was okay looking. She saw that video and she made fun of Edith. And I said, wow, you are rude. And she was a Christian woman. She goes, I said, you know, she's actually quite beautiful. To be blunt, viewers, she's more beautiful than this big busted white woman I knew, who constantly complained about her ex-husband. She was a school teacher. She had a Jaguar. Very arrogant. Yet she still wanted to talk to me, and she'd put me down and stuff. And it's funny. She keeps saying, maybe you ought to move to Florida, and it finally dawned on me. Is she hinting that she's interested in me? But even I saw through that and thought it'd never work. I wouldn't want anything to do with this chick. She was decent looking. Very much so. A lot of women respond to my love of Asian women and culture with just negativity. Oh, because you can't get anybody. No, I can get somebody. My choices in Denver are on the skids, literally. And I've second-guessed myself many times. I thought, is it because there's something wrong with me? And I thought, no. It's because I have changed. 15, 20 years ago, I might have gotten along with some of these women because I didn't see things the way I do now. But when your eyes are open, you can't go back. But whether it's me or anybody else, people notice the same things. I've talked to men that are handsome, GQ men that have said, I said, your wife or your girlfriend's beautiful. And every time they said, oh, she's a pain in the butt, dude. Really? Oh, gosh. And I hear that over and over with these hot-looking women. They're a relational disaster. They're not deep. They're not real. They're lip gloss and mall. By the way, Dark Prof, I like your comment. You were looking for depth in a mall? No, I wasn't. You can't get depth in a mall. Cherry Creek Mall in Denver, Colorado is as plastic as it gets. And it's amazing how people build their entire lives on a house of cards, of their own vanity. Yeah, I'm getting sick of pink too, by the way. They even got shirts that say pink, and the shirt isn't pink. I'm like, really? It's amazing how they can market stupidity and people wear it. Men struggle with lust for a variety of reasons, and it's easy for the American evangelical female, the religious female, to heap abuse on us and say, oh, you're pigs, you're perverts. No, we're not. How many of you women condemn the women for posing like that? How many of you women condemn yourself for dressing inappropriately, not wearing shirts, wearing scantily clad tops? That's okay, right? In Denver culture, it seems that everything's okay. Except for somebody like me saying the truth. In Denver culture, more put-downs are heaped on a guy like me than are heaped on these women that are behaving in the ways and means that I'm talking about. That tells me Denver culture, Christianity is extremely lopsided. I have noticed in this Denver culture, you can't talk truth here. There's a few men I can talk to, a few men that see all the stuff I've talked about. Nice men, hardworking men, men that take care of themselves. One that I respect who's older, who retired from one of the phone companies and is driving a bus. He doesn't own a car. He walks and he says, women don't want me. Back to being real. Condemning men for their sexual struggle is not going to make them better. Do you know that I would actually feel more comfortable being with a woman who could look me in the eye and go, gosh, that guy has a hot chest? I'd smile and go, really? You lusting after him? If you're secure in your love for each other, that stuff shouldn't bother you. Too many women have a princess syndrome. The thing I like about Maharani is I can look at her and say, when she'll send me a video, say, gosh, that woman is stunning. No, it's not porn, but a music video, and she'll go, yeah, she really is. I can see why you'd be taken by her looks. She is beautiful. I love that kind of freedom. Who wants to live with somebody who's condemning you for looking, for thinking? That's not marriage, folks. If you can't be honest with each other and all you're going to get is a raft of condemnation from your partner, you'd better start asking yourself, what did you marry her for? Most American women drive men underground in their struggle. I've seen it over and over and over. Men are out there having affairs and everything else. And they're not letting their wives know because they know what would happen if they did. Their wives are not easy to live with. They can't be real and genuine with their lives, and then they play a game on Sunday morning called church. I'm going to be very honest with what I'm about to say, and this is going to shock female viewers. No, not the ones that camp on my channel that are my fans. One of the biggest things that attracts me to Maharani is that she's accepting of me even with my thoughts. What man doesn't want a woman who really loves him and isn't trying to change them? I know what evangelical, stuck-up American women will say. Well, of course, because it just encourages you to be sinful. You always got an answer, don't you? You always got an excuse. You always got a comeback. I would say that thinking originates more from the devil's camp than Jesus' camp, but that's just my opinion. I have found for me a dynamic that when a woman really loves us men, that something in us sometimes will kick in and go, gosh, she loves me so much, I want to honor her and bless her. But a woman who's a rag and a nag, something in us shuts down and says, la 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 la, la 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 na 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 na. I'm covering my ears as a kid, because when your words mean nothing, I go la la la, excuse me. Morning allergies as usual. Pacific wants real. Let me go deeper. I have actually met couples who've been honest enough to me that they have both been honest about their sensual thoughts that they've had. Women admitting to their men that, yeah, the idea of you doing another woman in front of me turns me on. I don't really want you to do that, but it does make me hot. Why is that? I can't totally answer that. Christians would stand up and go, that is wrong. What is done between a couple in their bedroom, between them alone, is their business. Again, nobody has the right to play bedroom cops. But that's immoral. Now, that's between them. I heard the preacher pray that they could find ways to restore intimacy in their marriage. Well, how's that going to be done? How? I'm sorry, you got a woman who's let herself go. You got a husband who let herself go. Neither one of them are turning on by each other. So what are you going to do with that? I'm not even going to tell you what I would have to say about that. But sometimes maybe a little verbal role play between each other might titillate things enough. And it may be wrong in everybody else's eyes, but I say, hey, you know what? If it works between you guys and makes you all crazy for each other, do it. You know, that's nobody's business. No, I finally met a woman who is beyond anything I could have ever comprehended. How I wish. I wouldn't want her to have anything to do with a lot of the women I know in this country, because they're toxic dumps. And the thing is, I know what God's word says, and I fall far short of it. Heaping rounds of condemnation on men or people that admit that they're struggling is not going to help them become more godly. We need to encourage each other. We need to be real about it. We need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, why do I enjoy this? Because it feels good. So how do we get to a point where we have a heart and a passion and thirst for God where we don't desire those things anymore? We have to go to God and say, God, I like this sin. You are going to have to take this out of me. You're going to have to. We can be religious about it. Don't look at this. Don't do that. But it's always right there. And when you have a female populace in America ostracizing, condemning, putting down, maligning, slandering, attitudinal towards us males, it makes it so much easier to look at porn. We know we can't have those girls out there, so we say, well, forget it. And women can self-righteously say, well, you're supposed to still have self-control. Well, honey, that's between me and God, not you anymore, because you're not part of my life anyway. So I wouldn't worry about what I'm doing in my dark corner. Has nothing to do with you whatsoever. Many of us on this channel struggle with all kinds of different things. And all of us do need to grow closer to the truth and to God and godliness, but condemnation doesn't move anybody in a direction of productivity, ever. Do you know why I found two women kissing and removing their shirts and bras so riveting? It's how intimate they are. I don't want to watch a man and a woman doing it video because it's so barbaric. First of all, I don't want to see a man's ding-dong and his hairy and all his everything else. No thanks. Is lesbian stuff wrong? Yes, it's sin. So is homosexual stuff. But I'll tell you what, most Christian women today are not giving us any reason to pursue them. They're boring, they're dead, they act like they're so pure and special, and I look at them and go, can you imagine a love life with them in the bedroom? Big thumbs down. Something has happened in America where the church doesn't want to hear the truth, and they're not listening, and you can't tell them. And those kind of Christian women are going to look at a channel like mine and go, this guy is so off the wall. I take that as a compliment. We need off the wall because what is going on is really off the wall in the church, and they're not getting that message. This week, I personally witnessed somebody who confessed to me that they went to a bar on a date, first date, and had sex with a man, and bragged to me that they were being naughty. There are other problems in her life that are spiraling out of control. And this woman goes to a rock and roll for Jesus church where the majority of the people are flaky, where the majority of the people are immature. I've been to it a few times. And this woman thinks that she's godly and close to Jesus and uses terms like, my Lord, and my God. Yep, we're going to run up a hill with our cardboard cutout of a soldier. We're victorious. Her personal life is a disaster. I don't have time to clean my house. It looks worse than a third world landfill. But I have time to go to the bars again and again, and concerts and outings. I don't have time to clean my house. I work so hard and I take care of all this other stuff. Really? Most Christian women in the United States are not real. Their view of themselves and God is so wampus. And that is hard for Pacific to take. God does not want his children sinning. I said yesterday, if I regard iniquity in my heart, God will not hear me. But those same Christian women fail to look at Solomon, fail to look at David, and women are quick to say, well, David was a man after God's own heart. Really? Really? He didn't just masturbate. He didn't do that at all. We condemn in the evangelical church men that are masturbating, but not one word said about him lusting after Bathsheba. And did you guys fail to notice something? God was so against that. And yet Bathsheba had the next kid after God took her original baby. The next kid was in the Messianic line, and that was Solomon. Why did God do that? That seems inconsistent. It seems like God put a stamp of approval on that whole sinful thing, doesn't it? Ooh, we don't want to deal with that, do we? But Christian women say, well, David was a man after God's own heart. He wrote all the Psalms. David was a freaking pig. He lusted and had her husband killed. How many Christian women today can point to a Christian man who had somebody's husband killed because he had an affair with her in American culture right now? None. But damn it, don't you masturbate. Do you see where we've come today? Purity, 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 purity. Sledgehammer, sledgehammer, sledgehammer. And you know what? This is being used against us all the time. Women can dress provocative, but women are materialistic. Women are stuck up. Women have an attitude that has nothing to do with the Holy Spirit at all. Love, joy, peace, gentleness, kindness, faithfulness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Christian women today don't embody any of that. And I'm going to be very bold with what I say. I can guarantee you in the bedroom there is no passion. They'll lay there and let you do everything to them, and they ain't going to do a thing. They know how to have sex, but they don't know how to make love. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Pacific Ocean Asia holds no punches, holds nothing back, and I'm going to tell you, I'd rather be with a woman across the sea who's totally keeping it real, who loves me for who I am, who watched my videos, and before I even knew her was totally turned on and aroused by me in every way. She said, intellectually you connected with me, your spiritual faith is interesting. I said, but I'm not very spiritual in my godly behavior. She says, neither am I, Michael. That's why I love you. Why do we get this constant barrage of condemnation from women on dating sites? If you're this, move on. If you're not that, move on. If you don't make this much money, move on. If you don't have a college degree, move on. And this is from Christian women, not just the non-Christian women. I'm going to say something. A lot of American Christian women are mean-ass sons of biatches. Daughters of biatches. There is no other word I can give them. They're not godly, and they're not walking in the Spirit, and they're not an example of anything that would even remotely cause me to desire a deeper relationship with Jesus. If anything, they make me go, you know what? If this is the kind of people that God blesses, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. They're hypocrites, they're liars, they're self-deceived, they're full of themselves, and they've been ruined and damaged and destroyed by feminism and culturalism, and it is not equal to biblical Christianity. I'm tired of it. I have no problem with a woman who looks at me and says, you know, I'm having a problem. Could you pray for me? You bet. For all you doggone broads looking for Mr. Perfect, well, you'd better start being perfect yourself, because you're not, can't be, and never will be this side of glory. Get over yourself. There are a whole lot of good-looking women out there, and we men aren't going to just notice you. That's princess syndrome. Get over yourself. But if you develop this, along with those looks you have, you might have a man who will turn around and do everything for you. But until then, I'm not going to go after you. Why would I? You're a walking disaster and a liability. I feel convicted when I sin all the time because I am a child of God. But I also am sick and tired of the female, stupid, immature behavior by evangelical girl Christians that don't know the first thing about walking in the Spirit at all. They talk, but that's all it is. This is Pacific signing off. Bye-bye.